Operationalism, also known as operationism, is a philosophical approach that defines scientific concepts in terms of the operations or procedures used to measure them. This method finds its roots in the early 20th century, primarily through the work of physicist Percy Bridgman. Operationalism has played a pivotal role in shaping the foundations of scientific inquiry and has led to significant advancements in various fields. Operationalism emerged in response to the growing need for precision and clarity in scientific language. Percy Bridgman, in his seminal work, The Logic of Modern Physics, 1927, proposed that the meaning of a concept is inherently tied to the specific operations performed to measure it. Bridgman's perspective was influenced by the philosophical movements of logical positivism and pragmatism, which emphasized the importance of empirical verification and practical application of knowledge. At its essence, operationalism revolves around a few key principles. The first among these is operationalism's attempt to eliminate ambiguity in scientific terminology. The goal is to ensure each concept is explicitly defined through measurable operations. For instance, the concept of length is defined by the physical procedure of measuring distance using a ruler or measuring tape. Operationalism stresses that scientific statements must be verifiable through empirical observations and measurements. This principle aligns with the broader scientific method, which relies on experimentation and observation to validate hypotheses. Operationalism aims to reduce abstract or theoretical concepts to more concrete terms that can be directly observed and measured. By doing so, it bridges the gap between theoretical constructs and practical applications. Operationalism has had a profound impact on a wide range of disciplines, from physics and psychology to sociology and linguistics. In physics, operationalism has been instrumental in refining the definitions of fundamental concepts such as mass, time, and energy. By linking these concepts to specific measurement procedures, physicists have been able to develop more precise theories and models. Operationalism has significantly influenced the field of psychology, particularly in the development of psychological testing and measurement. Concepts such as intelligence, personality traits, and mental health disorders are often defined in terms of standardized tests and diagnostic criteria. In sociology, operationalism has guided the development of research methodologies and data collection techniques. Sociologists use operational definitions to measure social phenomena such as social class, deviance, and social mobility. Operationalism has also found applications in linguistics, where it has been used to define and measure language constructs such as phonemes, morphemes, and syntactic structures. By operationalizing these constructs, linguists can conduct more rigorous and systematic analyses of language. Despite its contributions to scientific inquiry, operationalism has faced several criticisms and limitations. Critics argue that operationalism can lead to an oversimplification of complex concepts. By reducing abstract ideas to measurable operations, some of the richness and depth of these concepts may be lost. Operational definitions can be highly context-dependent, making it difficult to generalize findings across different settings. What works as an operational definition in one context may not be applicable in another. Operationalism has sparked philosophical debates about the nature of scientific knowledge and the relationship between theory and observation. Some philosophers argue that not all scientific concepts can be neatly operationalized and that theoretical constructs have value beyond their operational definitions. In contemporary scientific practice, operationalism continues to influence research methodologies and conceptual frameworks. However, it is often integrated with other philosophical approaches to address its limitations. In modern research, operationalism is frequently combined with the concept of construct validity, which assesses how well a test or measurement reflects the theoretical construct it is intended to measure. This integrated approach allows researchers to balance the need for precise operational definitions with the recognition of the underlying theoretical constructs. Operationalism has also found a place in mixed methods research, where qualitative and quantitative approaches are combined to provide a more comprehensive understanding of complex phenomena. By using operational definitions in conjunction with qualitative methods, researchers can gain deeper insights while maintaining methodological rigor. Operationalism has had a lasting impact on the philosophy of science and the development of research methodologies across various disciplines. By emphasizing definitional clarity, empirical verification, and the reduction of abstract concepts, operationalism has contributed to the advancement of scientific knowledge. While it is not without its critiques and limitations, operationalism remains a valuable framework for conducting rigorous and systematic research. As scientific inquiry continues to evolve, operationalism will likely continue to play a role in shaping how we define, measure, and understand the world around us. This has relevance to Christianity and to the secular world of liberalism, neither of which pay a lot of attention to the definition of terms. For example, atheists cannot define God because to do so would lock them in an intellectual dilemma. God is either perfect, or he does not exist. One cannot dispute God on the basis of imperfections in his character, for such imperfections are either misunderstood or non-existent. God cannot be in a position in which his character can be maligned by men. An operator is the sign that defines what to do with the factors. In operationalism we look at the factors, for example policing, and decide what is the operation that police do, and we maximize and focus on this. If it is to keep the peace or reduce crime, this is what is facilitated. Defining the operation defines the term. In this respect we need to define what a Christian is, in terms of our operator. Christians are made in the image of God and God is the Creator. We are to create. Creation is another term for operationalism. Though operationalism attempts to define terms in respect to how they are measured. In the context of Christianity, God as a term is defined in terms that can be observed and measured. At least that would be the goal of an operationalist. God as the most perfect of all conceptions, the highest of all ideals, exists as the only self-defined concept. Only God can define himself. But how do we measure that which is beyond measure? How do we measure length in the absolute sense of the word? Where is the end of a measure? At what point does quantification stop? Physical things occupy a spot on a scale, but the scale itself is pure logic. Regardless of how precisely we can define an electron by its physical factors, the factors themselves are not real, the scale upon which the electron rests are pure ideas with no physical correlate. There is no actual foot length in nature nor meters measuring voltage. These things are human constructions. The claim that if a thing cannot be measured it is not real is to say that if humans cannot devise a way to quantify a feature, then it does not exist ties reality to our industrial civilization and level of science. Does a tree cease to exist if it cannot be counted? Electrons existed before they could be weighed, and their spin measured. The ability to measure depends largely on the technology available to produce gauges, and this technology centers on the sensitivity of the equipment to the changes being measured. Running the mile would be a far different event if we only had clocks that at best measured time in seconds. How do we measure life if life itself does not register on anything physical? How do we measure faith? Animals do not have faith. They live in what philosophers call the here and now. This type of lifestyle is also found in primitive societies that tend to not invest but consume what is produced. The little that might be invested is a surplus paid forward to close friends and family in the expectation that whatever is given will be returned as soon as possible. Subsistence cultures live primarily at the hand-to-mouth level with very little time or energy expended in future development. Skills rarely get beyond the level common to all adult members. If animals and subsistence cultures live at the lowest level of life, then we can assume investment in the future measures a higher form of life. However, this takes faith. Which means those who lack faith lack the full measure of life. They might be considered spiritually dead. We can of course measure the value of investment, as contrasted with consumption. When we invest wealth in the future we are measuring life in an operational sense. Without this investment in the future, our life is limited. However, it must be remembered that it takes faith to invest, rather than consume. It takes investment in life to have a full life.